I want to elaborate on the current Superman film, but I want to do a comparison. I don't want to do a three-part series or anything like that. Um, Recently, James Gunn came out with his version of Superman, and it wasn't an origin story. It was one of them stories where it just picked up somewhere where he's already been introduced, and I was a couple of years ago. I was very skeptical. I was like, "Oh boy, he's gonna follow in Bryan Singer's footsteps." Superman Returns, and ironically, Bryan Singer and James Gunn are about a year apart in age. Um, I believe Bryan Singer just turned 60 years old. James Gunn is 58, I think, going on 59. So both good directors. Um, and I was very impressed with this version of Superman. Um, I think James Gunn took really good care of the property based on his experience with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, and I did like the actor who played Superman, Clark Kent. He and um, David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnan, I think is how you pronounce her name, both had a Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder feel to it. In a couple of scenes, it felt like it was like melancholy, as they say. So I give this version Superman. The action was very good. I was happy they introduced the lanterns. So I was very impressed. My faith in the DC properties is has been restored. Now I wanted to elaborate on three other eras. We'll start with Christopher Reeve. However, I didn't grow up with George Reeve. That was way before my time. I watched a little bit, but I'm talking about big screen movies. So started with Christopher Reeve, which is what who I grew up with. Um, Superman the movie, Superman 2, 3, and even 4, the Quest for Peace. I like them all, but Superman the movie and Superman 2, both cuts, the Lester cut and the Donner cut. Um, for what they are, they're good comic book movies. Um, Christopher Reeve to me will still be the Superman uh, that I enjoy. I think he was perfect Superman. Fast forward about 20 years into the future, 2006, and we're introduced to Brandon Roth, and I liked him, but I felt a couple things fell short. I felt I was reading that the production costed too much, and it tried to erase Superman 3 and 4, and it got some of the dates off, things like that. And I did not think the actress that played Lois Lane, I think was played by Kate Bosworth. And she was all right. She was all right. I'm not knocking her, but I just think uh, the story kind of dragged on, that kind of thing. And I give that film compared to Superman, the movie, and two. I give it around a B, B minus. Then fast forward to, and then Brandon Roth. I wanted to elaborate quickly. Brandon Roth, I thought was pretty good, but he had big shoes to fill, and yeah, it was like okay, it still isn't the Richard Donner verse. Sorry to say, and I felt the film was more of a tribute than anything. So, like I said, I give it it's in the B category. In terms of villains, um, Lex Luthor, like usual, they were using him. They used them in the Christopher Reeve universe. They used them in the Brandon Roth universe. Um, we'll get to the Snyderverse in a minute, and he was used in James Gunn's version. Interesting side note: Superman Returns and Superman. They both had bald-headed Lex Luthors. It's still a fun Superman film to watch for that era, which was 2006. The next one we get, which is my favorite, is Henry Cavill, Zack Snyderverse, and I really thought Henry Cavill came very close since Christopher Reeve to play the Man of Steel, and it was a really good origin story. And I thought Russell Crowe played a good Jor-El. The actress who played Lois Lane, she was good. Um, Sometimes I have a horrible time remembering names. Um, but she played a good Lois Lane. And then it would have been nice. The only downside with Zack Snyder, his universe was they jumped from Superman to a sequel to Batman versus Superman, and then Justice League. That was a big mistake. Um, and just want to make this clear. I apologize if I didn't mention the actress's name for Lois Lane in the Zack Snyderverse. I'm just trying to remember her name. I know some fans will be like, you're a big Superman fan. How can you not remember the actress's name? So I apologize. So I understand where Zack Snyder was trying to go with it, but it was a little too dark, and I think that was the only downside. But however, Henry Cavill was really good. I would have preferred an American, but he still did very well for Man of Steel. So I give it like a B plus to an A minus. And then finally we get to James Gunn's um, the current guy, David Corenswet. And if I mispronounce it, please forgive me. I Now 2 years ago when a year ago to 2 years ago, yeah, actually a couple of years ago, when it was announced that there was going to be another actor playing Man of Steel, replacing Henry Cavill, I was pretty disappointed. But then when they were filming it and they filled the role in, I was happy to read recently that at least James Gunn gave Henry Cavill the dignity to make the announcement, not the studio. So I was very very happy in that sense. Um, Now that I have gone to see uh, Superman, the only downside of it, I feel like it feels too comic book like. But Superman being Superman, he is a comic book. He's a comic book character. So, and I was very very happy they brought Crypto on board, Supergirl. So I'm hoping James Gunn gives Superman at least one more solo film, kind of like go the Iron Man route, the Thor route, and the Captain America route, where Superman gets another solo film like Iron Man did, and then between Iron Man 2 and Avengers, the Justice League comes into play. So we'll see what happens. But overall, earlier this year, in fact, I to get myself ready for this new Superman film, I watched uh, I watched some of this Christopher Reeve Superman films, and then I watched Returns. I watched Man of Steel, and to build up the momentum, as I say, so when Superman comes out, I'd be ready for it. So, and another time, speaking of Batman versus Superman, another video sometime down the road, I will try to do a comparison video of the different Batman because there's a lot more to dive in there. Um, but overall, I think with James Gunn at the helm, after seeing his version, I'm very confident now that the DC properties are in good hands. And I do wish James Gunn the best success, like Snyder, Richard Donner, and Bryan Singer, Richard Lester, and whoever directed Superman films. So, with that being said, that's my review for this time. Until next time, uh, happy movie going and TV watching. Take care and God bless.